All right. Hello, hello. Welcome again. All right. Today, I want to cover this question. Are you the visionary in your organization? And how can you find that out? How do you know if that's who you are or not? It's really important for you to understand, your role in the business. And I'm going to go through and cover kind of exactly what a visionary typically is on average, and then it'll help you identify for yourself like, oh, that's me. And or maybe you're like, no, that's my business partner. And so it really is important for you to understand if you are a visionary. And if you are a visionary, you need to own it. And it honestly, when you start to own it and the team owns it, everybody knows it, recognizes it, you know what it does? It sets you free. You'll experience such freedom, and you'll get to start doing the things that you love. So let's kind of cover today what some of those things are. All right. So a visionary is typically a founder, right? They're a partner, an owner, a managing partner. Like they are the founders, and that's because typically the founders have a lot of ideas. That's how the business started, because someone had a creative idea to invent and create and produce something. And so visionaries are very much a founder. Okay, there it is, typically a founder. And then they are also really focused on a lot of ideas. So visionaries, they have, you know, 30 ideas, 20 ideas, and 18 of those 20 aren't maybe great, but man, those two ideas are powerful. And a lot of times those are those ideas that keep the business going and getting to where it is today. So visionaries, they love growth, and they just kind of got this passion for it and a knack for like, oh, we should do this, and we can do that, and oh, you know what, we know how to do this, right? They very much are. That's how they think. They are always kind of like they're looking at that high level. They're high level thinkers, like that 30,000 foot level, and so they see the big picture. They see it. It's there, and they understand it. And a lot of times they can do this, but man, the trenches are tough. We'll talk about that. But like the day to day is tough for them. But man, they can always see the big picture, right? They're strategic. Visionaries are strategic thinkers. They really focus on a lot of those strategic partnerships and relationships. That's really important to them, and they're really good at it. The strategy of what to do in the industry, and to that point, they've got a great pulse on the industry. They kind of know where the market's going. They've got an idea. They've got a lot of maybe relationships with vendors and suppliers and strategic partnerships, and they or conferences, whatever it is. They've just got a pulse on the industry. They're not clueless. They typically are already very passionate about the industry and the product or service, because they have experience, a lot of experience with it. So then they kind of know what's going on in the business. Visionaries, they love R&D, right? To them, a lot of times they love it because it's research, development of new products, new services. What else can we do? And it's part of those like 20, 30 ideas, but the high level and the strategy and the big picture, which the company needs, we got to know how to harness it. But it's really, they really enjoy that. They typically have ADD, right? They're kind of, this isn't bad. ADD isn't bad. So many successful people have ADD, but they have, their minds are a million places at once, because it's just, they can't help it. They see it. They're like, oh, that's probably could do this, and oh, we should do that, and oh, that. And so for them, it's a little bit harder to stay focused on one thing or the day-to-day operations. And what happens, we'll talk about it later, but what happens is when they are put in this, when a visionary has to run the day-to-day, the rest of the leadership team is chaotic. It becomes chaotic, and they're not very happy with it. It's very difficult to have a visionary owner in a spot where they are doing the day-to-day. It makes it very difficult to truly break through and the ceiling the multiple times you start to break through. The visionary, they love managing the big relationships. Those are really important to them. And they're good at it. They've got a good feel for people. They understand how people tick. They understand how they are, and they're great people, and they love it and they enjoy it. They like to own the culture, and a lot of times they do. They kind of create that culture, and then they keep it alive, and it's really important to them. That is part of their kind of high level, their vision. What they do is because they really start thinking like, how can I keep this culture going? And it's very important to them. Visionaries are great at creating a problem solving, like creatively. So the big ones, the ugly ones, the sticky problems, not like your little typical logical, practical problems to be solved. The big, hairy, ugly ones, they kind of are really good at it, right? They're really good at being creative and solving these really sometimes complex, difficult situations, and they're great at it, and they love it. They love to do that. And we talked about that, the vision, right? So they create the vision and the culture, and they protect it. Those two are very, very important to them. A lot of times a visionary will also do big sales. They'll sell big deals. Some of the biggest in the company, or because of their relationships with partnerships and vendors, or their experience in the industry. So they will land like the huge deals a lot of times, not always. The visionary also is good at like getting involved at the like employee, vendor, client level and as needed, right? It's like they're a cheerleader, and they can just check in and touch base like, hey, how's this going? How's that going? And how can we do things better? And when they're not in charge of the day-to-day and the accountability and the follow-up, they can then they're free to be themselves. And now they can really invest their time in their employees for the culture and the vision, the vendors, making sure quality and everything there, but it's not the day-to-day. Now, two more things that they're great at, right? They're really good at connecting the dots. That kind of goes in line with strategy and vision, but they see that big picture and they connect the dots of where things need to go, the pieces of the puzzle. They just kind of have this eye and this talent for seeing this needs to go here and that needs to go there and this here. So they're really good at that. And lastly here, they're tinkers, right? They like to tinker. They're creators a lot of times. That's how it started. So they are creators, inventors, and tinkers. And the problem is visionaries, a lot of times they build it, they create this thing, but then they don't have time to tinker. It's like an outlet. They don't have time to be inventors or creators because now they're dealing with people problems and process and the day-to-day, and that's a struggle for them. So we need to help. If there's a visionary in the organization, you need to see it, call it out, know it, and allow the ability to open up time for them to tinker, to invent, to create, because that's part of that R&D. That's part of the growth and strategy of the company. And if they're bogged down on the other things, then they're not going to, do well. And so the visionary, they hate the weeds and they're not good at the weeds. So are you doing things in the weeds that you shouldn't be doing if you're a visionary? If after hearing all this, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm a visionary, but I'm doing a lot of the weeds and the trenches, that's not good, because you don't thrive in that setting and you don't enjoy it. You don't love to do that. And you know what? And you're not great at it. You're just not great at the day-to-day functions. You're not great at the operations, and that's okay. But man, you're great at all those other things of the visionary. And so if you're doing the following, I'm going to have a list. If you're doing the following things as the visionary, that's a problem. There's going to be a bottleneck. There are going to be issues that are going to keep coming up over and over again until you make a change. Okay, so are you doing a lot of the things you should not be doing, such as managing the people? You shouldn't be managing the people. That's not your strength. That's not what you're the best at. And you can bring other people on to do that well, better than you could. Okay. Again, running the day-to-day operations shouldn't be you as a visionary. Are you the one that's holding people accountable? Not the visionary's role. For this company to break through and keep breaking through and keep doing what they had done originally so well, you can't be the one holding people accountable. You can't be the one following through on projects. You can't be the one, following up on details and paperwork, and you're checking your email and administrative things. Because if you are, I guarantee you're burning out. You're getting overwhelmed. You're overworked. You're working morning and night. And what started out as exciting and fun and wonderful is now making you miserable, exhausted, tired, and you're losing the fire. You're losing the love for why you even started the business and creating and all this passion, because you're bottlenecked, you're bound, you're stuck doing these day-to-day things that should not be done by you as the visionary. You need to stay in your lane where you have that high vision and you're a strategic thinker and creative and a tinker and lots of ideas, so that you can maximize your personal potential, but also the potential of your team. You will learn that the team can do a lot. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about is what is an integrator and how does that integrator help and how to delegate and how to do that. So we're going to cover that in the next couple of videos, but that's it for today.